can get a good amount of creatine through foods, meats, beef and chicken. And there's so many things that would come into play in order for you to actually bulk when it comes to taking creatine.
Welcome to the podcast with me, your host, Dr. Debra Durst, and I have my co-host, and I have a special guest with us today.
Hey guys, Farideh Golembiewski, nurse practitioner here at RevitalyzeMD, and I'll let Dr. Durst introduce our special guest.
Meredith Wallace. Again, Meredith works with us in the office. She's amazing. She is our laser specialist, but that is just touching on the surface. Her background is education and fitness, and again, high level fitness and bodybuilding competitions and all the things. So training, I'm going to let
nutrition, health and wellness.
Way too much.
I could go on. So I'm going to let her say a few words, and then we'll dive into our exciting topic today, which is creatine.
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Meredith. I've worked for Dr. Durst for almost 4 years now. So I love doing everything possible here at RevitalyzeMD. And today we are going to talk a little bit about creatine and all the amazing benefits. I feel like men are already really aware of the supplement, but women are not so much. They think that it's kind of a man supplement, and that's definitely not the case. There are so many therapeutic reasons to use creatine. There's so many sports related reasons to use creatine. It's great for blood sugar. It's great for fast twitch muscle fibers. It's great for endurance. It's great for so many things. So if you want to get a little bit more information just about some of the research that we've been looking at and all the studies that have been done, there's so much to talk about when it comes to creatine and so many amazing ways that we can use it. So we're going to kind of just touch on some of those things. And obviously, if you guys have questions, you can write us about that. But we'll touch the surface and give you all the information that we have right now on kind of what we've learned and our experience in the product as well. I've used it for years myself, and with all of the fitness athletes that I have helped and a lot of the nutrition and events that I've helped people prep for, this is just an amazing supplement. And really, there's nobody out there that it cannot have great benefits for.
I think that was one of the coolest things.
Something that we've learned, along the way. So we'll just say that, like, again, Meredith does fitness, she does training, she does nutrition, she has an extensive background in all of that. They do the Knox Classic bodybuilding competition here. Again, she's always, I guess kind of staying on Farideh and I about fitness and nutrition. Yes. But when we were deep diving into the research and uses of creatine, it was actually eye-opening, because I think that what you touched upon is women don't know. And I didn't know, like, all the benefits. And I'm thinking, why am I not on this every day?
That's it. That was probably one of the biggest things. I'm like, why am I not taking 5 grams every day of this? There's really no reason I shouldn't be. There's really no reason any of us shouldn't be.
Right.
No. It's fantastic, like Meredith said, for the performance side of it, but there are so many health aspect benefits to this. It blew my mind.
Correct. And so I think when I think about all the videos, the podcasts, that I've listened to and watched over the years on creatine, it's always fitness, and it's always, and I hate to say this, but it seems like it's men talking about fitness and muscle building, and sometimes an
in
extreme
the men's fitness world.
Yeah. And so I didn't, I know that it is a very touched upon topic there, and I know it's researched and safe and effective. But the fact that I didn't know a lot of what I was reading just tells me that there is an untouched viewer audience out here, and it's women in the aging population. So as we hit andropause or perimenopause or menopause, and of course it starts in adolescence, but I feel like that is a touched upon topic. But now we're going to touch upon like all the health benefits. Like it was amazing. So an overview of creatine, if you kind of want to go into a little bit of like I guess historically people used to load, maybe they don't. We'll go into some basics on creatine, and then we're going to touch on some benefits and some studies that support that.
So when it comes to creatine, and some of you may or may not know that you can get a good amount of creatine through foods, and I think that that's very important as well for people to know that it is a naturally occurring substance in our bodies. But getting an extensive amount through foods like meats, beef and chicken and pork and salmon. You can also get it a lot through seeds like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, I believe is another one.
What about vegetarians?
A lot of your proteins. It's really going to be a lot harder for vegetarians. They're really going to have to take a supplement in order for that. There are some leafy greens and broccolis and things like that. Some of your greens are going to have small doses of creatine in them, but you're not looking at more than about 0.75 grams or maybe up to 3 grams per serving. So you're going to need to eat a lot of foliage to be able to get that all in. I don't think any of us are prepared for that.
Seemed like mostly red meats is where it was the most.
Red meats, yes.
Your best
poultry,
form,
yes. So it is readily available in a lot of foods, but obviously some people just don't have time to get in as much of what they need, which is why, lots of people create all of these greens powders and all the things that you can get just with a scoop of whatever mixed with water.
And it's an inexpensive supplement.
It's very expensive, just like all proteins and seeds and nuts are.
Creatine powder by itself is not.
Right.
Yeah.
That also blew my mind on how cost effective for what it is. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, specifically the creatine monohydrate. There are lots of other forms of creatine. I think that creatine monohydrate is one of the most readily available and much cheaper forms. It comes in a powder form that obviously is going to be more bioavailable to us, and it's going to get in our systems a lot faster. We don't necessarily have to load like we used to, so you're not going to see, you're not going to have to wait weeks and months before you really see the benefit of that. I think within 3 to 5 days of starting to take a creatine source of some form, there's enteric-coated tablets as well that help kind of get straight to the source.
You don't like that powder.
Right, in case the powder...
The powder's actually not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I've been pleasantly surprised.
Yes. Well, and I think, again, like you can get it in nutrition, but it's such an inexpensive supplement when you're just actually taking the powder.
Right.
And it's when it's mixed with greens and all the other things that it probably gets a little more expensive. But the other issue is that we do make it in the body, but we only make about 50% of what we need. So, and I wanted, like Farideh and I went back and forth about the loading because, it used to historically be loaded in the fitness world. And it sounds like maybe you might see some effects quicker, but really just starting to supplement is good enough.
Yep. Everything I found online shows that, that is more of a older school thought was that loading that creatine, doing like a 20-gram load. But the side effects that come with loading like that, the GI side effects, the bloating, the diarrhea, that it's not worth it or necessary. All the newer stuff that I came across had really just 5 grams daily and don't worry about loading. But what Meredith kind of touched on was creatine monohydrate. That does seem to be kind of like the gold standard. But if you cannot tolerate that, there are other forms. But really, if you can tolerate the monohydrate, that is the form that you want.
And you could take just lower doses.
Right.
Because
That's what I was just going to say. Maybe starting, especially for women, if you wanted to start at like a 2.5 gram dose for maybe a week or so and see how your gut kind of tolerates it, there's really no need. You can always titrate up. There's no need in just forcing, a lot of people, especially men, they will be like, well, you need 10 grams and then the next week you need to do 20 and it's a constant like build. And that's not necessarily required. And it totally depends on your goals. The creatine itself for women as well as for men, it helps that ATP production,
which is your energy of your cells,
be more viable, which gives us more energy. So that water, we think, it's going to make me retain water. That's not a product that I want because the scale is going to make us be like, I put on
Just
the
a number
holiday.
I can't look at.
Yeah.
I can't look at that
The
number.
holiday 15, and really it's, that water, that water is
cellular
going into
hydration.
your muscles, right? So you want that water in your muscles. That's what helps to recover your muscles from exercise. That's what gives you that protein synthesis. You have to have water in order to make that happen, and it's just so underused, and people just look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah, and you're actually it does draw water into the muscle, which also makes sense that you might get GI side effects or, some loose stools along with it because it's going to draw water into the GI tract. But actually, hydrated muscle is better,
healthier
for muscle building and protein, building, and so that's a necessary component.
And
but that's a side effect women think about, right?
Less
Bloating
injury.
and weight.
Yep.
And like Meredith said, it is a primary role in our cells developing ATP or replenishing that ATP. So when you're doing these high intensity workouts and you're blowing through that cellular energy, when you're taking creatine, what that allows is to kind of recycle it. It allows the body to kind of get that extra little burst to create more ATP.
And for those of you that love that science part of it, we'll do another short podcast that talks about more the cellular mechanism of that, but it can get pretty intense and we won't even go into it in that much detail. But it is kind of cool once you look at how it, is taken up by the cell and converted. But I think the other side effect that women think about or that people hear about, I shouldn't say that women think about, is the kidney issue. So you hear a lot of stuff. Again, creatine is not creatinine, just so you know. Creatinine is the kidney marker, which isn't always a great marker for kidney function. But people think if the creatinine goes up with creatine, and that's a kidney issue. And so we can go into that a little bit too.
But it's a different form.
It's a different form. So it is not, creatine and creatinine are not the same thing. But of course, if you're building more muscle and bigger framed people, more muscles, more active, are going to have higher creatinine. So it's not always a great marker. So, but it doesn't affect, it's a safe supplement. And that's the important thing. So it is not going to hurt your kidneys, but you may see an elevation in your creatinine. So if, for instance, you had one kidney or you have kidney disease, that's a whole different matter. And that's where you have to
healthy,
adjust.
Working kidneys.
Right. Yes, correct.
Of course.
Then it is not going to hurt your kidneys. So, so that's not true. That it actually affects the kidney function ultimately because it's not creatinine, although you may see that elevation. But again, the dosing we're talking about is for healthy functioning kidneys.
And you're going to see a creatinine influx anyway whenever you're lifting. There's more water in your muscles. You are trying to create more protein synthesis, or you are very fatigued because the creatine also helps with fatigue, because obviously if you're having an uptick in that ATP, you're going to feel like you can go longer, kind of like a better version of caffeine, because we use caffeine to keep us going, right? Well, we need something.
Which is what's bad in the pre-workouts.
Yes. We need something that's more stable long term to give us that kick without something having to drop us up and drop us down. It keeps us more stable, which again leads us to the insulin conversation, which we can touch on a different podcast, of that being able to regulate insulin levels a little bit better, which so many other things do that as well. And
that's one of the health benefits of it. We can talk about another 10 to 20 health benefits that you can recognize with creatine that I didn't know about until I was deep diving into the research with this. But again, insulin sensitivity is improved,
which is huge.
Right.
Blood sugar regulation, so it's helpful for diabetics. There's studies that support that.
But even just insulin regulation for all of us.
Correct.
Every day.
Every day.
Everybody needs, if you didn't know, if your insulin levels are stable, then that reduces the risk of you having more fat.
Storing more fat.
The storage of the fat is going to increase.
I was wondering how you're going to bring that up.
I know. I'm like, if your insulin levels are constantly, coming up and going back down because you're you're only eating when you're hungry and then it's junk and then you come up and then you drop down really quick, if you're going to store fat. So it's just another great benefit of that creatine, trying to stabilize those insulin levels. If you wanted to just use it alone, if you're trying to do minimal amounts of exercise, that's highly recommended, obviously, for everybody individually, because it also has a great...
Are you looking at me again?
No.
You're going to do minimal amounts.
You're going to do regular exercise.
Like, those of you that want to exercise. No. I think... again, we can touch on this in another session, but there's a lot of studies on the dopamine increase when using this as well. And I think that for people with Parkinson's and all, it's always recommended that people that have mental acuity issues and are developing these.
She's like,
because it's neuroprotective.
Exactly.
She's talking about those health benefits. Again, antidepressants work better. It helps with dopamine regulation. It's neuroprotective for neurodegenerative diseases. And again, cognition, it's huge. So as we get older.
In conjunction with exercise.
Gut, liver, brain benefit.
Yeah.
All of it.
Fatty liver is a common issue. And again, as insulin levels are going up and down and we're storing more fat, it's going to the liver as well. So it's helpful for fatty liver. We can go on about the difference.
But Meredith did touch on one thing that I do want to bring up, because it's something that it's a misconception that I myself fell into, which is it's a male supplement.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I thought this
and that I don't want to take something that's going to make me bulk up. I don't want to retain all this water. Yeah. If I'm not working out heavy, I don't need it. I mean, it really was, it helps with creating ATP. There's benefits, but I was like, but is it really going to benefit me?
I'm
not really trying to gain a bunch of weight to turn into muscle. I'm just trying to tone. Is this really the right product for me? Because that's the misconception behind it, is that I think of creatine and I think of bulking. Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily true.
Well, I think we think of that because, again, every video, everything you watch on it is in the fitness bodybuilding community. At least I have watched. That's what I've watched. So I didn't think I wasn't too worried about getting bulked up, but.
But if you're loading and you're going to the gym, I mean, it's a concern is to pull on all this extra water.
That's another reason to not load as well, especially. And it's a very... It can be a very detail-oriented conversation about, women have to have a great deal of testosterone in order to bulk, a great deal of creatine in order to bulk, a lot of protein,
resistance training.
So there's so many things that would come into play in order for you to actually bulk when it comes to taking creatine.
So when we're talking about a load, just so you know, again, it was like a 20 gram historically they would do, and it was multiple times a day, like 5 grams, 4 times a day. And just a 5 gram. Now we're talking about normal, healthy. If you have medical issues, you're on medicines, you should always check with your doctor. But it's a 5 gram per day, but smaller amounts work as well. And it sounds like what I read is maybe if you're doing a load for 5 to 7 days, you might start building a little earlier, but it's not necessary. You're still not waiting months, if you're doing it on a daily basis, but it does need to accumulate in the muscle. And so 95% of creatine that we take in is actually stored in the muscle. And usually
95%.
Yeah. So, and then there's a lot in the brain too, but you actually need to accumulate that. So taking it once or twice and going to the gym is not going to work either. No. You have to take it on a daily basis to actually accumulate it in the muscle. And then if you stop taking it, because there was a lot of cycling stuff too that I read about and really not necessary. It doesn't seem on any of the studies that it's really necessary to do, but there's some downregulation of receptors that could happen. And
have you ever seen any pretty negative side effects from anyone taking a lower dose in your practice, training with anyone? And that's kind of the consensus of everything I think listened to and read to.
Yes, the only time is when people, just like with anything else, when they're not doing it properly and using the recommended dose, if they try to do 20 grams for weeks on end just because more is better, right?
But more is not always better.
That is
more
not
is
always
just
the case.
Exactly that, more.
Right. It's just more. So there you will get some subcutaneous water that you do not want, if you're doing 20 grams for 2 weeks, just trying to have an extra load, but it's not necessary.
What about brands? Is there any brands that you particularly like over others, or is it pretty much if it's just creatine monohydrate, you're good to go?
Yes, as long as it is a reputable company, I feel like you're fine. We will probably have one in the office before long, and then next door at the health shop, there's multiple.
Finding a health shop and a vitamin
reputable
shop that you trust is doing the research for you, because it's not, supplements aren't regulated, which is why, again, the health shop that's why we ended up right next to it, because I was there all the time before.
So we have a health shop. We are very lucky to have an amazing health shop right next door to us. Exactly. So we are able to send our patients next door for supplements if we don't carry them, or just for the nutritional guidance, the exercise plans, nutrition plans, just to really get them to be the healthiest versions of themselves.
And it's just, that supplement is just like any other supplement, which is why, you don't go to Walgreens and buy your
Costco.
B complex or Costco or Walmart. You really need to, they'll even take name brand things and kind of give their own spin to it and add a supplement or add products or byproducts into those supplements that are just fillers. So you really need to read your labels and make sure that it's consistent with the better brands, and just go to a reputable company or a local health shop that is going to only carry good products. So you make sure to get a high quality product.
And sadly enough, we have not had it in the office. And like Farideh and I have mentioned, we were both
wondering
why we had not been on it. And so as soon as I was reading all the studies, I'm like, we're getting it. So we'll have medical.
I immediately dove into my husband's stash that he has. I was like, I'll be doing a scoop of this now.
Correct. Yes. Well, when I did a Google search, again, 450,000 articles just based on a Google Scholar search is searching creatine and performance studies. So it is the most studied, safe and effective, we know, but some of the other health benefits that, again, we got into, some of them, but even with pregnancy, reproductive health is another one. Again, the fetus is dependent upon the mother's, creatine supply, and so and it's safe. Again, it says, of course you want to check with your doctor, and there's not a ton of studies, but so far no safety concerns there. Children and adolescents, because again, about 40% of students so
I was reading like high school, even like high school athletes,
yes,
that there are safe forms that if there are way other things we should be worrying about as parents other than our
creatine
intake.
Well, about 40% of fitness or athletes and high school are on it.
They're already taking something. Might as well educate on what they should be taking in amounts to keep them safe.
There are specific brands that are athletic safe. If they are drug tested by the NCAA or other affiliations that do regular testing, there are special particular brands that are appropriate for those that are under 18. Obviously with parental guidance, but there's special brands for those.
So definitely something to pay attention to and look at for the parents out there that are listening, because their sons or daughters are taking it.
Yes,
because everybody's taking it, and
everyone is taking it.
You got to do all the other students are doing.
Well, and a lot of what we were talking about again is, so if it's cellular metabolism and it's more effective cellular metabolism, then any organ in the body would benefit. So we've already talked about brain and
liver
and kidney. But if we talk about, like, as we get older, obviously we're noticing weight changes. So this is where I can't believe that I haven't been on this and recommending it to every woman. Like, all day long we hear about body composition changes and weight changes. And so we talk about resistance, we talk about protein intake, we are optimizing hormones, but again, creatine alone will help you build muscle better, and it's the most used supplement to do so. And so that's one. We have bone loss. And
I know, I kind of feel bad for all of my patients out there. Sorry, 5 grams of creatine a day.
Well, when we talk about bone support and we're talking about hormone production and vitamin D, but creatine and likewise.
I do. I mean, we talked about it. I'm like, we did a disservice. We need to be down to everybody about it, just like we talk about everything else.
Less fat and better bones. And again, there's heart, there's brain protection, there's that pregnancy thing that we talked about, glucose, metabolism better, cholesterol, lipid panels. I mean, it is amazing, even PT and rehab and recovery.
Absolutely.
You know,
And if we've missed anything on that list, please add in the comments.
Yes, correct. Well, cancer, like lowering your cancer risk, and there's certain types of cancer. But also a lot of those studies talked about vitamin C along with that. And again, you know, we can deep dive into the various areas and some studies related to that, but in just reviewing fatigue, chronic fatigue,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
even post-viral, which was a big thing with COVID and viral and
Long
fatigue
haul
after
COVID.
long haul. Yeah. But you know what I thought was the most interesting, and we could end with this, is skin health. Collagen production. It can be
So
used
gross.
topically as a wrinkle cream. Like, yes. I mean,
So
Not tried that one yet.
that
but
means that you know who you are. There'll be a compounding pharmacy we will be calling.
I know.
You
I
know.
You know who you
You're
are.
going to be mixing something up for us. Just get ready.
Yes, we put it everywhere.
We're gonna be
This
putting
is
it
your
everywhere.
warning. Get
Yeah,
ready
can you
for us to give you a call.
I mean, you have better energy, you know, better, meaning the skin, the cells of the skin, and metabolism and antioxidant, but also wrinkles and smoothing and collagen production. Like
Can we
I had no idea.
microneedle that into
Yeah,
our
we're going to
faces
be.
too?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah,
it.
we're definitely going to be, you know, again, coercing our compounding pharmacy to now produce something topically as well to use. So, but it's amazing. And so, again, Meredith is a wealth of information. We utilize her all day long in the office on that. And again, she's great with the aesthetic and beautifying part. But as we start to really focus in on health and fitness and comprehensive health and fitness, especially as we expand even.
Right?
You know,
So we don't
getting
want to
all
just look
the,
good here. We want to look good here.
well, yeah, correct. And I think there's so many different things like, you know, sauna, the cold plunges, like the creatine, just the things that we can do from even
Whole
daily,
body health. Absolutely.
you know, daily things for fitness and intermittent fast and sleeping better. You know, I think we need that comprehensive addressing of aging as it happens so that we can age well. Right? And do all the things. Is that what you said?
We want all the things to look good, right? We can't just laser here.
No.
So
We can do
anything
all the
else that-
things.
Yeah, we need all the things.
I don't think so.
No, I think. Yeah, and I think that so for 2024, that's going to be one of my goals is like a big, huge, you know, kind of health stride and balancing better. And a bod pod might be a good start with that. I mean, we have, in body with the body composition, but even just following that as we start to really supplement and load with, not load, but supplement with creatine to see the differences. And
I'll be
follow
interested
along,
to
so.
see if my inflammation markers come down with that alone. Because she's beating me right now on inflammation markers, and we can't have that.
Yeah,
Everything's
and
a
then
competition.
We can't
so
really compare or
can't
even
compete with
follow
Meredith. At least I can compete
because-
with Dr. Durst.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, we're always in competition about something. It could be anything, AccuFit,
You have
and
to be.
ketone,
You know,
or-
you
yeah,
have to be.
It's fun. Life is a competition, right? So
Yeah.
All right. Well, so leave comments. So women, I definitely would love to hear comments about women that don't know.
Or who have
as
introduced creatine into their
Yes.
routine and the benefits
see
that they're
changes,
seeing.
right.
Absolutely.
And just an aging in general and the benefit of creatine. So if you have any experience, please share it, like, subscribe, and let us know what you want to hear more about because we're willing to deep dive into anything wellness and sexual wellness.
Thank you.